Hey everybody, this is Tim Hart, branch manager of Van Dyke Mortgage here in Fort Myers. Branch manager is a fancy way to say I'm a loan officer here in Fort Myers. It sounds cool. I got my buddy here, Brian Chapman, Chapman Insurance. Brian, how you doing today, sir?
Doing good. I rep the risk management side as a fancy way of saying I'm an insurance agent.
You're VP of risk management.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Well, Brian, brought you on, man. Last week we did a video of another insurance friend of mine on these flood insurance changes we're having in Southwest Florida. If you don't know about these changes, go back, watch this video. I know Brian put out a great email about it as well. There's some pain coming for homeowners in Southwest Florida that have homes in a flood zone or are trying to buy a home in a flood zone. And Brian, I brought you on because I want to cover this for realtors specifically. And I would imagine sellers and buyers will get some information out of this. But, first, we want to prep sellers, buyers, and realtors on these changes and kind of give some tips. But, Brian, what's your thoughts on it, first off, with these changes coming?
So I don't mind change because we've got a legacy system, right? Our National Flood Insurance Program system has been operating for 50 plus years. And it's never been done scientifically, meaning, they've never really looked at like each individual risk, each individual home building. So I like the idea in the change of saying, hey, we're gonna look at a risk and rate it for what it needs to be for your specific house or your specific property. What I don't like about it is we have historically in Southwest Florida been a significant donor to the program. When I mean donor is since inception over 50 years ago, we have only received about $134 million in flood losses. So all of our flood events, total losses received about 134 million. Now, why is that relevant? Because as a community, all of our shareholders, all of our policyholders, we pay in about $95 million a year, every year, year in, year out. The total we've received is 134 million. So when you add up all the premium we paid in and you look at how much we've received back, we're a winner and we've won every year. We've had a few years there where we had some losses, but then you have a couple great years and there's no losses, and majority of the time it's been no losses. So what I don't like is the impact that it's having on Southwest Florida in a negative way, where they put out this new model, the risk rating 2.0, and everyone, and I mean everyone, is going to see a rate increase. That's going to be at least 18% if you have an existing policy starting April 1st. And if it's new business and there's no prior policy on that house, you're going to get what they refer to as the full risk rate. The full risk rate, we haven't seen probably a policy under $1,500 or $1,600, and that's not a norm. That's like just the lowest we've seen, right. And as high as up to 8,000. And most of the policies are falling somewhere between 4,000 to 6,000. So that isn't good.
No,
it's not good.
You give them a quick example, Brian, on my own home, and we talked about this on my last video. My flood insurance is going up to, I think, $680, right?
Right.
And if I didn't own my house today and someone was buying it and I didn't have flood insurance, $7,700 is the quote on my house. And
you're in a great position, right? So you have a policy. And unfortunately, if anybody's thinking, oh, well, let me run out and buy a policy now so I can save the next buyer of my house, it's too late. You can't do that now.
As of October 1, it was?
Yeah, correct. You're going to get that full risk rate. And there's a 30-day wait. You want to buy a policy, you got to wait 30 days unless there's a loan closing. Then we can do it the day of the closing. But if you just decide right now, I want to go out and get the $680 policy that Tim has, you can't do it. It's the full risk rate. So that's how they're calculating it. So the next step of this is you can look at private flood insurance. Private flood insurance would be a traditional insurance product from a traditional carrier. So you call us and we go and look and see what options are available. A lot of it's being written through Lloyd's of London. Those rates are starting to increase because they're seeing the market change. So they can adjust their rates accordingly. So wonderful.
And still give you savings.
Yeah, right. And still give you savings, right? So you're 4,000 instead of 7 or 8.
Yeah, the real
Um,
heroes. Thank you, heroes.
yeah. So, but I think let's speak to the people that have a flood policy. Like you have a flood policy.
Mhm.
So what they're doing is think of it like a glide path. So you're paying what you're paying, and behind the scenes, now you know what the full risk rate was because you had somebody go and run it. But if behind the scenes, the National Flood Insurance Program knows what your full risk rate is. So you're going to see 18% a year, which won't be that much in the beginning because your policy's at a low point, but you're going to see 18% a year until you reach that full risk rate. Now you have the benefit since you have a policy, and this is what's important to realtors, and they need to pay attention to this, and mortgage brokers, is if you have a policy and your client has a policy, they're selling their house, there are credits that can be passed to the new buyer. So we need to take advantage of that. And they basically just, you're in the car driving your 18% rate increases, they get to switch seats with you in the car and take over that glide path, up until they reach the full risk rate. Not a great solution, but it's the best solution we have right now. So, I think what more specifically, if you have a buyer that's buying a house, part of the conversation right away to the seller's agent is, I need a copy of the flood insurance policy.
Yep.
Or if you're selling a house and your client has a flood policy, go ahead and put it up on MLS with the documents supplied, because a buyer just canvassing a property, not even coming by, if they have that document there, they can get a preliminary flood quote and know what it's going to look like using the credits from the prior policy.
Yeah. And so just to pause there real quick to recap a couple of those points for realtors, because that's what we really want this to be about. And for these sellers as well, like you said, man, if you have a seller that is in a flood zone, they have a current policy, make that information available, have it ready if you're listing that house. If they don't have a flood policy, you better be prepared with telling the agents, letting it be known they don't have a current flood policy. And I would even have the quote ready, wouldn't you, Brian? Like, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah,
don't waste time on it.
Do it in advance so because you get to the finish line and you've got a $4,000 or $5,000 flood policy, and that could kill a deal. So,
but you also don't want your seller or your buyer to spend time showing or looking at a property that's going to have $7,000 or $8,000 in flood insurance, and it blows out their deal. So you really just save a lot of time there as well,
Yeah, no, not save the effort. Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep. So we got that, right? Sellers have their flood policies ready. Buyers need to be prepared to ask for the flood policies by sellers. How about, and you mentioned this in our text messaging, was the flood zone. Like we jump on FEMA, we'll look for the flood, run the property address, we look for a flood zone. But you said that's probably going to be changing sometime soon.
Yeah, so Southwest Florida has been going through what they refer to as map revisions. And this started back in 2015, like the ball started really turning on this. We had our last major map revision in 2012. And so they're constantly reviewing this. What's going to happen is they have done map revisions, McGregor Corridor, South Cape, anything on the river, up into North Fort Myers on the river, and Fort Myers on the river. They spotted some areas where they felt like really needed to be focused on and looked at, some of the islands as well. But they're basically, what matters is how many people are being brought into a special flood hazard area.
Yep.
And that's going to be lender required flood insurance. And there's about 24,000 parcels that are going to be brought into the parcel, meaning the whole lot, right? And out of those 24,000 parcels, about 22,000 homes, the flood insurance actually touches the house. That's the trigger. When your house touches the flood zone, it's literally like, it goes from green to blue. Mm-hmm. And there's about 22,000 of those 24,000 that are going to be now in a lender required flood zone that have previously not been. So that's going to be, if you take 22,000, an old average premium of $1,000, you got $22 million. I would say that's probably going to be $3-4 grand now. So, you know, $100 million in a flood requirements now for Southwest Florida, if they approve these maps. That's the big if, because they've been here, they've been on the table. I mean, this goes back 2019, late 2019. They were reviewing them for approval. They had town hall meetings. Of course, nobody showed up because who wants to talk about flood insurance? But you know, they're kind of kicking this down the road. Maybe they're waiting for this risk rating 2.0 to roll out. But the good news is, you know, if there is good news, about 2,000 homes are going to be taken out of it, but the net impact is going to be 20,000 homes going in.
Yeah, I was going to ask if any were removed. So 2,000.
Yeah,
so
about 2.
So 20,000 is going to be the net that's going to be hit.
Yeah.
So question.
It's a big deal. So that, you know, now you got all these new homes that are going into required flood zones that haven't had, maybe some have had prior because they could still buy it in a preferred zone. But, you know, it's now they're going to get the full risk rate.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So like, if you're, let's just say that part goes through and you're now in a flood zone, you never were forced to get, by the way, when Brian says lender's forced insurance or lender's flood insurance, anytime you have a mortgage and you're in a flood zone, the lender is going to require you to find flood insurance. If you don't have a mortgage on it, you own it free and clear. You don't have to have insurance, homeowners insurance, flood. You don't have to have any of it. It's your house.
Right. You buy what you want. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you have a loan on it, you've got to have flood insurance. That's what Brian's talking about. But what like if you own a house and all of a sudden like, hey buddy, you're now in a flood zone, congratulations, you don't even get a chance to have your previous policy because you never were in a flood zone. So they're going to get hit with the full amount.
Yeah. And your lender will send you a letter. Hey, we noticed this change. Then guess what? You either buy it or we're going to charge you this. And what they usually charge you is, you know, triple, exponentially more.
Right.
All that's up in the air right now with maybe they won't charge you as much. But again, that policy that they're making you buy benefits them, not you. So you're probably going to be better off still buying your own policy, but you're going to get the full risk rate from risk rating 2.0, which again, on average we've seen somewhere between, you know, 3, 4 to 6,000 on average. That's been the premium. So it's going to be a huge issue. Now there is one, I will add one other thing here. About 25% of those properties, in my opinion, will be eligible to challenge and successfully win that new mapping. You can do this through what's called a LOMA or LOMA R or LOMA F. It's a letter of map amendment. And so now you bring in engineers and you have engineers fight, you know, against the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA, and say, hey, you put us in this flood zone, but we shouldn't be. You're going to have a little bit of expense to do it, but probably about a quarter of the people that are going to be in that group can fight it, might win it. So just there is that there as well. One of my house is actually one. You can go look at this. Go to Lee County website. They've got preliminary flood maps. I've gone and looked at what my zone is on my house, what my zone will be, and I am affected. I'm going to be going from an X zone, which is a preferred zone. It's $572 a year to buy my policy. And it's going to be going into what's called an AE zone, which is a lender required flood zone. Fortunately, I've already bought mine. I've already had it. So I'll have that kind of, you know, glide path rate, but it's going to be a big pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Yeah. And you know, that whole getting your house out of the flood zone thing, that's going to be another video when we get down to it. I'd like to do something about that. That's good info. But so I think the bottom line for the realtors and sellers and buyers, we've kind of covered. And just to blanket again, sellers, have your flood policy ready. If you don't have one, you better get a quote so you can tell what the buyer is going to be. Buyers, be ready to ask for the flood policy. And the other question, or the other thing I want to make sure everyone knows is, you've got to know these flood zones when you're out showing homes. You know, like and hopefully you hope the realtors market in the MLS that it's in a flood zone, you know, that I'm not overly familiar with that system on if they market or not, but even if it's not, you still sometimes can't trust the realtor to input the proper information. And so I would just say
Lee County. Yeah, Lee County's done a good job. If you go to leecounty.gov and you look up, they have a whole site dedicated to flood. You literally can click one button. It takes you to an interactive map and you can enter an address and it'll tell you exactly what zone it's in. And you'll know, I mean, instantly it'll give you a letter,
Oh, gotcha.
to identify that. And it'll also tell you if there's preliminary maps affecting that zone. So they've done a good job of coordinating that. I think the other thing I would say too is if you because realtors are going to see a lot of this information. It's going to be delivered to them, right? They send me a property address, say, Brian, give me a flood option for this. They're going to be getting a lot of information. If you could please take that information and share that with your local association, particularly your political arm, or keep it together in one place so you can show, man, this flood insurance policy is like $6,000. I think that the more data we can collect as a community will allow us to take National Association of Realtors, because that's really where the fight needs to be had, because it's a national program. It just allows us to have a larger voice in DC on these issues. So start collecting data right now that you're getting.
You mean like when emails or whatever, text like, hey, I'm not buying that. That's too expensive.
Yeah, save that, and then take the policy, right, and put all that and create that little client file, and then collect client files that you can, and say, hey, I need, because what's going to happen is when we go to DC to fight this, it's going to take a bipartisan bill. We're going to have Republicans, Democrats, hopefully, or just based on the nature of where we are today, the Democrats going to have to lead this fight. But it's got to be because his constituents have issues, and the Republican, her constituents have issues, and we got to come together on this. But they're going to need real examples. They're going to need, show us the data, right?
Yeah.
Hey, this is Joe and Mary's house in Cape Coral, and the premium's going from 4,000 to 7,000, and this is Dan's house, and it's going from 1,000 to 6,000, and those are the examples they need, because that's what resonates.
No, that's a good idea. And I'm going to throw in one more for, Brian and the other insurance companies out there. If you're a realtor, you need to have an established relationship with an insurance company. You need to have that person ready. Brian's group does a great job there with, Crystal. Hey, shout out Crystal.
Yeah.
But have that relationship set up. So when you have these properties, especially if you're listing, that you can get the quote ready for the buyers. Hey, we're going to look at these 3 houses. Can we get a quote on them, et cetera? Like, have that relationship set up, because it's going to save you time, save your buyer's time, your seller's time, and maybe money, and hopefully get you some more deals too.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Rely on us. I mean, we'll do the work. So, this is what the cost is for A, B, and C house, and you've got it there in front of you. The only thing I would say, and I always caution, is that's what the pricing is today is for, it's a 1-year snapshot. So if someone's buying a house thinking, oh, my flood insurance is only $1,000, and I'm gonna buy this house, there could be risk rating 3.0 that comes out and your rate could change. But I think your point is, be prepared, do the work in advance, rely on your sources, and let them carry the load for you, and have the information.
Yeah, man. Brian, you got anything else?
I don't. I'm getting tired of talking about flood insurance.
You better buckle up, buddy. You're going to be talking about it a lot.
It's a wild ride right now. I'm happy to lead the charge. I mean, the irony here is, and I have said this on the record many times, is, it's going to take more than the insurance agent advocating this. And the irony in an insurance agent advocating this is, I get paid on the products that we write. So rates go up, I get paid more, and I'm the one leading the charge on this. I mean, it's kind of like a backwards way.
But dude, like, I
know, but we know what's right.
Yeah,
we know what's right, and that's it. So happy to lead the charge on it, but it's going to take numbers to win this battle. And I don't think we need to completely eliminate what they're doing, but maybe we change the 18% glide path to 8 or 10, or maybe we allow somebody to have a step up, instead of saying, hey, you have to take the full risk rate right now. I mean, because that's just going to blow up our market here. New construction is being heavily impacted by this.
Yep. I mean, that was my first thought, was new construction.
Yeah. When you buy a house, I mean, a $300,000-$400,000 house, $350,000 house, right? Which isn't crazy today. That's not like a rich house. Yeah. It's not a wealthy person's house. And your flood insurance, brand new slab, built to code, built to elevation, is $4,000.
Yep.
That's
When
going to
they were
kill
expecting
new.
like 500, 600, maybe $1,000 tops.
Yeah, that's going to
Yeah.
kill new construction, you know?
Well,
So
good times, man. Good times.
appreciate you,
So
brother. Keep
how can I
fighting.
get in touch with you, man? What's the best way
You
for me
can
to get in
email
touch
me,
with you and your
Brian,
team?
BRIAN at CIGFlorida.com. We've got our numbers. Best place to probably visit us is on our website, CIGFlorida.com. We've got our different locations, 5 now, from Charlotte County down to North Collier.
5. Check you out, man.
Check us out.
Hey, are you on buses at all? Like, do you, is your,
That was my alter physical body 40 pounds ago. But yes, I am riding around on buses.
yeah, one day I'm going to Photoshop my face on all the buses. I'm going to try to get you on that.
Do the teeth, make them white. Everyone likes white teeth. So
Okay, all right. I need
yours
that.
are pretty white though. Yours look good.
Well, that's I got a big bright light shining in my face. That's why. All right, dude. Hey, I appreciate it. If you guys watching out there, look, you got concerns about flood, or you know someone has concerns about flood, share this with them. It's got more information on there. Hopefully it helps them save money, make money, you know, save time, whatever.
Yep.
My company's always here to help. If you need anything from us, call me 239-437-4278. We're always here to serve. Brian, thank you, sir. And you have a great day, Brian.
Appreciate it.
See you, buddy.